Gordon situation a little bit here. That's one of the big news headlines of the day. So Melvin Gordon requested a trade. Kind of a unique trend we're seeing, particularly with the running back position, with players being a little unsatisfied with how that position's been devalued. The use of the franchise tag, we saw it come to a head last year with the Le'Veon Bell situation, him choosing to hold out, obviously dashing the hopes of many fantasy football fans everywhere. So what are your kind of like general thoughts on the Melvin Gordon situation right now?
So I think it's kind of interesting. We see this a lot more in sports like basketball, right? Where you have one player that has such a large impact on the game, right? So let's take a LeBron James or a big, well-known case, Anthony Davis, right? Where Anthony Davis can literally be your entire team. And if he's unhappy and wants a trade, you sort of have to accommodate him. I'm glad that it's happening in football. I feel because there's, so many guys on the roster, right, that football players, despite them putting their body on the line more just because it's a contact sport, haven't necessarily been able to get paid what they're sort of owed, especially running backs, right? So your running backs usually last 5, 6, 7 years at most, right? Very few running backs are in the league much more than that. And I do feel that owners have used that sort of leverage against them. They've been able, running backs are a dime a dozen. You guys get hurt all the time. You're only going to be here for 5 years. Why should I pay you more? So I am happy to see a lot more running backs, right? Like Zeke is currently going through that. He's sort of on his holdout from the Cowboys, and they're likely either going to have to trade him or just pony up and pay him all the money that he wants. Now, as far as Melvin Gordon in particular, I don't know if it's necessarily the wisest decision. I don't think he's negotiating from a point of strength. Whereas Zeke, right, it was obvious when Zeke was out with the Cowboys, they did not do that well. I think this was also sort of what hurt Le'Veon Bell, is James Conner was there. The Steelers still did a fantastic job. They missed the playoffs, yes, but they still happened to do a really good job, much better than people had thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely touch on the Steelers too. I mean, definitely the Steelers do have a luxury that they have one of the best offensive lines in football, and that's definitely going to curtail or definitely amplify a lot of the skills of like most running backs. In particular, they've done a great job in the draft, and you definitely have to give it to James Conner, like bouncing back from obviously his condition and everything to come back on the field. But it's interesting. He obviously outdid a lot of Le'Veon Bell's production last year, which when you look at that, it kind of really showed why there's that general belief that running back is a dime a dozen. Running back is a replaceable position because, off the top of my head, I don't know what round James Conner was drafted in, but he certainly wasn't a first-round prospect. He wasn't a second round. Did you guys even get him in the third? You had a couple years ago, Kareem Hunt came out of the third round and led the NFL in rushing. So when you look at kind of like that value, that fact that you could just basically pull guys in and have them compete, it's definitely a little discouraging, especially when you consider, I don't even consider Melvin Gordon to necessarily be in that upper echelon of running backs. He's definitely a solid contributor. He's been one of the better like fantasy running backs. Granted, like I love having him in the leagues I've participated in, but when it comes down to on-field production, I saw Austin Eckler perform amicably in that role. They had Justin Jackson come in and really do well in relief of Melvin Gordon when he was hurt down the stretch. And honestly, like the fact that he's not on the field a lot too doesn't really make his case.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. The other thing that I think people have to factor in as well, and maybe running backs aren't necessarily factoring this in. So obviously you have your running backs that are really good and stand out, right? Like Lev Bell is a fantastic running back. Saquon Barkley is fantastic, Ezekiel Elliott. But also, how much is it that they rely on the line that's in front of them, right? And And so if Melvin Gordon doesn't have a good line, he can maybe be the best running back in the league. But what happens when you have the best running back in the league with the worst offensive line in the league? You're
Yeah.
probably not going to get a whole lot of production out of them.
Well, too, even if you just consider if you're dealing in a stagnant offense, sometimes when NFL teams start loading the box more, you're naturally going to see a drop off in production. Look at David Johnson over there in Arizona. Like last year, with their quarterback situation kind of being a mess with Josh Rosen and everything else they were trying to piece together at that position, teams were just keying in on David Johnson, and his production is a far cry from where it was in years past. Certainly, like obviously, too, you got to factor in that situation. He was coming off basically missing an entire year. But the fact that there was no other offensive pieces around him definitely hurt his production. And it's going to be interesting to see with a player like Melvin Gordon. So obviously he's requesting a trade. So it comes down to what's the market for Melvin Gordon right now. And I look around the league, and the Rams, obviously they broke the league with the Todd Gurley deal. They went out of their way to pay Todd Gurley. Some would say unnecessarily. And obviously it backfired on them with currently Todd Gurley's condition right now with the knee arthritis, but when it's not like you're just trading for Melvin Gordon, you're also trading for a player with an injury concern, and then you're trading it to have to pay him. And when you do pay him, what are you paying him? Because you're not going to give him the Todd Gurley deal. I'm not even confident. Are you giving him something more comparable with Le'Veon Bell got? I could touch on that Le'Veon Bell deal. I think that was a little bit of a letdown for him after that holdout. But what is Melvin Gordon's value sitting at? Is he a top 5 running back? Is he a top 10 running back? Maybe top 10 I could give him.
I could see that. Yeah, much more than top 5, probably not. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Todd Gurley deal sort of threw off the economics of the entire running back market, right? Because now a whole lot of running backs want to get paid. I think it's similar to even some quarterbacks, right? Like I think Kirk Cousins, who we'll probably talk about, is probably overpaid. Now, granted, the quarterback position is just more valuable in general. But when you have teams that are just starting to go out and overpay, it sort of inflates the whole market, right?
Well, the tough thing, too, about that is the general way the NFL runs is it's next man up gets the next highest contract. I mean, we just saw that Michael Thomas just got the highest paid wide receiver contract. Granted, you could poke some holes in that. Like when you look at actually the guaranteed money, it's probably not necessarily what's all cracked up to be. But with that said, especially now, too, that you have Zeke holding out. This really kind of hurts Melvin Gordon more, I would say, even, because if it honestly deflates his trade value, because if you're a team looking to trade for a running back right now, would you rather contact the Chargers right now, Dean Spanos, and look to get Melvin Gordon, who's been injured, who's been off the field plenty of times, and is trying to get paid as a top 5 running back? Or would you rather call Jerry Jones right now and try and get Zeke's production? Would the Cowboys trade Zeke? I don't know. I mean, sure, he's been a headache off the field. Jerry's gone to bat for him a ton. But if I have those 2 running backs on the trade market, I'm probably targeting Zeke. He's been on the field, or when he's been on the field, he's been arguably the best running back in the league.
Yeah, and really the only time that he missed was that suspension, right?
Yeah, and hey, a lot of alleged charges in there, a lot of gray area. Certainly, we weren't in the room. We don't know what may have happened in those situations. Obviously, the courts felt the need to drop the charges. The NFL really just, when you look at that suspension, probably just did it more so to save face more than anything, give Zeke kind of a suspension more on the don't be an idiot suspension.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. Zeke definitely has his problems, right? But for the most part, he's been able to stay on the field. His other incidents have been, very small and minuscule compared to him being suspended for the length of time that he was previously. So I think I would much rather go with Zeke in that situation, and it does hurt Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at his trade value, I just don't know what the market is. I don't really see too many teams that I see as like ideal fits, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have said, like, if you would ask me maybe a few months ago, I would have said maybe like the Colts, but they seem like they're ready to rock and roll with Marlon Mack right now. You look at the Eagles, they just traded for Jordan Howard. You know, I doubt that they're willing to make a move right now, especially because, again, you're trading for a new contract. You're going to end up paying Melvin Gordon close to $15 million a year, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see it as worth it. So honestly, if this situation goes any more than a couple more weeks, I think we might be on the verge of another Le'Veon Bell situation.
Yeah, I agree, right? Like, and obviously Lev Bell did not make the salary that he wanted. So I agree. I think Melvin Gordon is going in doing, which I think is fair, right? He wants to get paid what he's worth, but really, how much value is he worth, right? Is the main, and he's definitely as much as some of the other running backs around the league.
It will definitely be a situation monitor. Hopefully, as the weeks go, we kind of get more clarity, and who knows, maybe if Zeke's holdout ends, that kind of changes the Melvin Gordon situation. It doesn't help that his teammates, Philip Rivers and company, are throwing him under the bus too in interviews. We'll keep track of it. In the meantime, I think we should start kind of like carrying this podcast along. Let's start getting into our division kind of breakdowns.
Before that, though, I just want to know, overall, do you think it's good or bad for the league, running backs holding out?
I think it's a bad precedent for the league, but in general, I've kind of been against this get the bag culture as a whole. I think that it only hurts fans, to be honest. What I do admire about the NFL is that even though you can argue it's more of an owner-controlled league, it's better for fans because obviously the distribution of players, talent, like if you're a fan of a team, you only really care about that team. And for better or worse, like with kind of like the player carousel that you'll see in the league, like if, let's say, obviously I'm a Niners fan, let's say Jimmy Garoppolo ended up playing for the Cowboys tomorrow. Would I still be a Jimmy Garoppolo fan? No, I'd be a Niners fan first. I think part of the thing that the NBA really wants is they really want you to be a fan of the NBA. They want you to be a fan of basketball more than anything. Whereas, hey, call it foolish-hearted fanhoods. I mean, honestly, fan is